Yeah, yeah,
If you back up from that a little bit, what would, can you define the overall mission? Like if you were going to meet with a priest or a prayer, what are you going to tell them about what we're trying to accomplish? Let's
yeah, yeah.
give it the next 3 years. Here's where we want to see us going and what we want to do for the people that we're working with.
Yeah, that's great. Um, Mark
And
Meyer,
also, hey, Mark, one other thing while you're doing that is, can you share those slides with us?
yep, they're already in that shared folder actually, as of this morning.
Thank you, brother.
But absolutely. So I don't know that I can articulate it the same way that I did to Mark Meyer this morning, but he asked the same question. And I said, men of the church today are not leading as a whole. They're not leading. They've usurped that leadership authority to women. And women should lead, but men need to lead too. And biblically, men have a higher level and need of authority than women, right? So eventually there could be a women's ministry. I think that you know that, maybe not. Eventually there could also be a women's ministry, but as in my mind, the reason we're starting with men is that we have surrendered leadership. But it's not just that we've surrendered it, it's that as a whole, men in the church are so broken, they're incapable of leading in the church. You three are exceptions to that rule. But as a whole, and not that women aren't broken too, clearly they are, and some of it's a result of the men in their lives. But because of addiction to phones, pornography, due to lack of freedom in areas of anger, and many others, mental health, men are not free as a whole. And they need to be set free by the Lord. Only He can. And each of us on this call has experienced that freedom, I'm sure in varying levels and in varying times. Kevin, you detailed what happened when your dad had that experience. And yet, if we looked at the rest of your life, I'm sure there are other profound experiences that have contributed to the Lord setting you free. It's not just free from sin, right? It's free from other sorts of captivity and free for God's purposes, free for mission, free to be a soldier. So men need to first understand that they are a son of God, and not just intellectually, but that knowledge needs to creep through God ordained ways from their head to their heart. And I do mean creep because usually that's how it happens. But sometimes it's an overwhelming experience of God's love. And in an instant, it's gone from their head to their heart. This knowledge that I'm a son of God. And wow, that impact on others begins. The impact on self changes, and the impact on others, I would say, in some ways begins, at least is transformed. And for those of us who have had that transformative experience of coming to believe and understand our sonship, we have typically found that the brothers around us are instrumental in that, and that we need to be brothers, not only to the men, but certainly to the women as well, with a degree of caution, when we're talking about relationships with women, with a degree of caution, which is why I think men's ministry, one of the reasons why men's ministry can be so powerful when we take the women away from the retreat, or the small group. We need to have experiences with the women, but we also need to have experiences without them. So once a man knows he's a son and starts living that way, once he knows he's a brother and starts living that way, and he has an older brother who mentors him and a younger brother whom he mentors, and a Barnabas and a Timothy, whereas you are the Paul, and you're mentored by Barnabas and you mentor a Timothy, then now this man can become a soldier and a leader, unlike he's ever been in his past. So you take highly effective men in the business world, or highly effective men in other aspects of life, and even in the church, and the multiplication value, the exponential value of their impact on the world around them, all changes as they become more obedient to the Father, more cognizant of the reality of their sonship, and more communal with their brothers around them. And I realized I just spewed a lot of church language, like theological language. But I think if we were to dissect it, it would lay out very practically too. It's really hard to be effective anywhere if you're not humble and obedient. The business world crashes and burns when people aren't humble and obedient. And the same is true in the church. And so criteria for choosing any one of you was humility, obedience, prayerfulness, freedom.